Tracy Amigos, former football coaches turned insurance agents to talk about Texas Aggie football.
Well, thanks for joining us. Welcome to Trace Amigos episode 25.4. And this week we've got the winningest coach in A&M football history. Man was the head coach for 14 seasons down there, had a winning percentage of over 70%, still holds the record for winningest coach in Southwest Conference history. Won 4 Southwest Conference championships, is a member of the College Football Hall of Fame, and really created the wrecking crew defense down there that I know us three grew up watching and enjoying. So, Coach Slocum, thanks again for joining us. I'm Matt. I have a Rollo agency here in Hallsville, Texas. Was a high school coach for 10 years. Got to be a part of a state title there at Carthage back in 2013. I'm excited about a couple of kids from that town that are hopefully heading down there next fall. And I'll let Seth introduce himself and get going.
First of all, let me tell you, you never believe my memory of Carthage, Texas.
Let's hear it.
I was in the band at Carr Junior High School in Orange, Texas, and we went to a band contest in Carthage. Rode those Yellowhounds all the way from Orange to Carthage, so I remember that trip well.
I can't believe that I would have never believed that Coach Slocum was in the band.
I thought I was a tuba player. All those years, I got pictures that big old. I got some on the wall here with the Aggie band. I came to A&M one day. I was speaking to the band in a luncheon thing, and I was telling them my story about being a tuba player. And some guy in the back raised his hand. He's waving. Hey, Coach, no, you weren't a tuba player. I said, yeah, it was one of those big things. I carried it in the Christmas parade. No, Coach, I know what you're talking about, but you weren't a tuba player. We don't have anything on this campus with a TU in it. You were a bass horn player. Okay, I stand corrected.
There you go. I like it.
I've been a bass horn. Yeah, we don't have any tubas in Aggie band. Those are all bass horns.
I like it. I like it. Well, Seth, tell them a little bit about yourself, and I know you had some questions you wanted to ask the coach.
Sure, yeah. My name's Seth. Coached at various schools, none as prolifically successful as Carthage. Now I do insurance as well. My office is in Gilmer, so I get to follow. I have kinfolk that coach at Gilmer, that get to follow a pretty good program with them, even though they had a tough loss this past Friday night. I have some buddies. We were group messaging, and some of them there's some age gaps, and some of them who are a little older than me that were very much like, they were. I was a younger man when you were coaching at A&M, and I didn't follow this stuff as closely as I do now. But they were really talking about your foresight with the facilities race that took off in the late 90s, early 2000s. How did you come about that? Was it just something that you saw other teams doing, or was it like a proactive thing? Like, I know this is where it's going. You mind sharing what your thoughts were about that?
No, I could see it for a long time. And I'd go visit other schools, and it got to the point where I had pro scouts telling me, said, man, y'all better do something. Y'all way behind here. And there's a long story for that. We for a long time was an all-male military school. So then, I came here with Emory. We had very few girls. This is 1972.
That's a problem.
But around in the 80s or so, the girls started really coming here, and that was helpful, very helpful for football coaches.
I can imagine. Yes.
But
young men probably appreciate that.
I can't remember the exact year, but the Title IX thing passed, So then all of a sudden we have, I think it's in the 80s sometime, and we had any women coaches or women AD and all that, so we had to get all of that. We had 0 women facilities. And so all of a sudden we started saying, man, we got to get women AD, assistant AD, we got to get coaches, we got to have facilities, we got all that. And so that takes money. So we went through that period there in the 80s with Jackie. We were winning a lot of games, and we went in the 90s. I lost 4 times at home in 10 years. So
That's
I was doing all
incredible.
I could do. We were filling Kyle Field. We were
Yeah, you
winning
were.
games, but we weren't doing anything to help football. We didn't put any money back into football. My coaches' salaries were low. My salary was low.
Yeah.
And but the coach, I wasn't worried about me. I was worried about when I went to hire coaches and trying to retain coaches.
Right.
And so I kept telling anybody that would listen that we're way behind. We got to do something, man. These recruits, the kind of recruits we need, they go to visit other good schools. And the schools around us, the schools around the country, the guys we're recruiting, they're way ahead of us. So finally, I got some friends here, some of our journalists that said, Coach, they were asking me, and I said, don't take my word for it. Let's go look. Just go with me and go look at some of these other schools. So we took off, and the first place we went was Texas. We could have stopped there because they were way ahead of us. They'd redone their facilities 2 times, and we hadn't done anything. We had the same old locker room underneath Kyle Field, the same dressing rooms, all that stuff, and we were way behind. So we could have stopped there. I was very appreciative that they allowed us to come over and look. And we took a little group of guys, and then we went from there. We went to Alabama, Florida, Florida State, North Carolina, and Tennessee. We were way behind all those schools. And those were schools I looked up to that were successful programs. And we were behind every one of those. So with the help of these guys, we came back and they started saying, they started spreading the word and saying, coach is just not making excuses. He's got a valid point. So we started doing that. And I'll say, I'm so proud of our former students. Once they got the big picture, they bought into it. Now we started what's now the bright Slocum building there on the south end zone. They came to me one time and said, you know what we'd like to do? We're going to go underneath Kyle there and we'll renovate those locker rooms a little bit, spruce them up. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. That's throwing good money after bad. We need a first-class facility, and I want to wait till I can get one. And so I waited too long. So I went out and raised some money. I took one summer, I didn't take a vacation, and I traveled all over the state. First place I went to Dallas to a friend of mine, Bum Bright, that owned the Dallas Cowboys. And I said, Bum, I never have asked you for anything, but I need your help. And I'll never forget, he's sitting there, had one of those old squawk box speakerphones on his desk, and he mashed a button, called his son Clay, who was down the hall, said, Clay, you need to come down here. I think the coach is going to put the bite on us. Clay came down there, and I asked him for $5 million, which they gave. I got a picture right up here where Bum signing that agreement, and that was the lead gift on that Bright building. Bad thing, sad thing for me, I never got to go in that building. I was using it recruiting. My last year, I was having a good recruiting year. I'd already gotten a bunch of guys. I had 18 commitments at that time, and I really believe I'd have gotten Adrian Peterson if I'd have been the coach. But anyway, I was using those drawings of that building. It's going to be down here. It's going to be not. Anyway, so I got fired. I never got to use the building. So
Man.
but I'm proud that I'm still glad that we got it. I was very honored here about a year or so ago. One of our donors, Wayne Roberts, made a significant gift to renovate that whole building. And he said, I don't want my name on it. I want RC's name on it. So it's the Bright Slocum building. I'm still close with the Bright family. The grandkids now go to A&M. And so I see them. I saw them recently here at the event we had on campus. But we got it, and I'm proud we have it. And now that gives us a chance. That puts us in the ballpark. But we've got a new thing with the NIL, and it's not just facilities now. If you don't have facilities, that's a real negative. Some people say, well, facilities don't matter anymore. That's not right. They do matter. They still matter. But we've got something else that also matters.
Yeah.
You sit around, you can argue about whether it's right or wrong or good or bad. You can do all that you want to, but we didn't make those rules. Somebody else made the rules. But if we're going to be competitive and be what we're capable of being, we've got to be competitive in this arena too. We got to step up and say, hey, you know what? That's something we'll do. Now, I think the fundamentals of coaching, of putting a team together, of having a chemistry in your locker room, all those things, that's not going to change. And you can say, you know what, we'll do the NIL, leave the NIL stuff outside the locker room. When you get here, it's not about that. It's not about who's getting this or getting that. It's about our team and you guys pulling together, working together. And the coach that can do the best job of that will be the one that has a real good team. We
Yeah.
saw last year, Ohio State it has the reputation of having maybe the biggest NIL in college football. You know what? Who won the national championship last year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I just want to tell you, we had Reggie McNeil on last year. We were blessed to have him join us last year. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate, because that was right when I was getting out of high school into college, and I was a huge fan. And I remember when you were let go from coaching, and everybody was scared he was going to leave and whatever, and what a big player he could be for A&M. And he came on last year on the podcast and said you had a huge part in keeping him at A&M. So as a fan, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you, because that couldn't have been easy in that particular situation, but you
I'm an
you did it,
Aggie.
and we appreciate it.
I'm not by degree, but my heart. I've spent too many years. I had chances to go other places while I was coaching A&M.
Right.
I could have gone to the Arizona Cardinals. I was approached by LSU. Baylor, the morning after I got fired, Baylor called me at 7:30 in the morning. Mark White, the former governor, calls me, man, we need to get you help to Waco. And then the AD called, and then my dear friend Drake McClain called me about 9:30 that morning. He was on a business trip in New York, and he called and said, Coach, we need to get you up to Baylor. So I had other University of Houston call later that morning. The athletic director called, and over the years, North Turner called me about going to the Raiders with him. And I'd been here in my adult life. I coached 30 seasons at A&M. And in my adult life, when I was not doing something on the field, coaching, off the field, I was quail hunting in South Texas with Aggies, or fishing, or whatever I was doing it with Aggies, and I had two
Yeah.
sons that were Aggies. And so now I went to a deal in Houston last December. I was honored at a thing down there, like called a Halo House, which is a thing that helps people that have cancers and have to have extended stays and treatment at MD Anderson. So I went down there, and I had my immediate family there, and there were 15 A&M degrees represented in them. It was a black tie deal.
Wow.
I had a picture with me, with all my kids, grandkids, daughters-in-law, everybody kicking them up there. And I said, well, thank you, Lord. I made the right decision.
That's awesome,
Yes,
man.
sir.
Wow.
Well, Seth, did you have anything else you want to
Yeah.
let Mark?
Not to go too crazy. I mean, we kind of talked about the external factors, and then I kind of just want to get your thoughts about some whiteboard talk on, if we took the wrecking crew, some of your best defenses you remember from your time at A&M, and we dropped them into this modern era of football with the proliferation of the RPO and smaller and faster and on the field. And do you think that they would have fared well, or would there have probably needed been some personnel changes or schematic changes from how you did things back then? I'm curious on your thoughts on how the wrecking crew would fare in modern day football.
Not much change, because we played. If you go back, I saw John Jenkins a couple of years ago, and he said, Hoss, y'all had us figured out, man. He said, I was always scared to death that somebody else was going to do what y'all did, but nobody ever did. He said, not many people had those coverage guys like you had, and the linebackers that could run, but you check the stats on when the run and shoot played played the wrecking crew. It didn't fare too well. They'd have 800 yards a week before or something. And we played, I told my coaches at the time, we were playing, this is really, at that time, I said, this is an unconventional offense we're playing. So it makes no sense to play a conventional defense. We're going to adapt to it. So one time down there in Houston, I put John Roper at nose guard, and we played our two outside linebackers at 5 techniques at defensive end. So we had And then we had nickel and dime on the field. So I had
Awesome.
CBs and all those linebackers, and the nose guard was a linebacker. And
Yeah.
so at that time, their scheme, they had two open sides all the time. Every down, they'd be like trips open, or, two on one side, three on one side, empty backfield, or they'd have one back and they'd have three on one side and one other, but they still had two open sides. So with me bringing that speed off the side, even if they were half rolling away, we could catch them from behind. They couldn't outrun. Before they could get the ball off, we'd be hitting the quarterback in the back of the head. And I look at a lot of people now. If you take what we did, we had a 3-man front, and we, like I say, we put speed guys there, or you could have some bigger guy. We had a way to do a conventional front, but the kind of guys we put, the Ropers and Wallace and all those guys that could run at outside linebacker. And then I went up and spent time with Bill Parcells in New York when they had the 3-4 thing. I spent time with Bum Phillips and Wade Phillips, and just getting speed at the outside there, and we could change it up all kind. We could bring that outside guy right flat down the line, and so any kind of play going away, they'd catch it from behind. And we could run them up the field. We had a bunch of ways. We could bring them up the gut. And then we had the guys inside that we could bring. One of our best stunts, we'd send the nose away, and we'd bring the onside backer and the onside A-gap and bring the off linebacker around. And then, the 5 that guy came free almost every time.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate Mark. Tell him a little bit about yourself. Mark is our defensive expert on this podcast, so we let kind of him talk defense. But Mark, tell him about yourself.
Well, I spent 20 years coaching in high school football, and lucky enough to win 5 state championships. I will say this: I was fired by Coach Surratt when he got here, before he won all 10 of his. The first year he gets here, I'm already on staff, and he fired me, and I spent a year away and came back. Coach Slocum, can you relate to that story a little bit?
Yeah, I guess, I spent 1 year, I went to Southern Cal. I think it was divine providence or intervention. Good Lord was looking out for me. We were pretty good on defense. We just weren't getting it done there in the late, a couple of years. And I had a chance to go call John. I'd known John Robinson. We'd played them in the 75 Liberty Bowl. Was John McKay's last game at Southern Cal, and John was taking over, and McKay was going to Tampa Bay, and John was taking over at SC, and he was at the bowl game, and I got to meet him and everything. And then after that season, when he took over, he sent his defensive staff, Don Lindsay and the guys, sent him down to A&M to visit with us. And so I got to know John. Well, so when John called me after the 80 season and wanted to know if I'd come out and interview for the defensive coordinator job, I said, man, they just won a national championship 2 years before that. And so I went out there, and so you got a guy from Orange County, Texas, going out there close to Orange County, California. That's a long trip, man.
A little different culture too,
Yeah,
I would imagine.
I ended up at USC and had a great. I took the job. He offered me the job. I mean, several guys had interviewed before me, and he and I just hit it off. And I love John. North Turner was there. Hudson Houck, who later were with Jimmy when they won back-to-back Super Bowls with the Cowboys. Gil Haskell was a guy who was with Home Green at Green Bay and Seattle. So we had some guys that could coach a little bit. And we led the league in defense. And I found out something that all coaches know. Some of them don't always understand it, but players have a whole lot to do with how good you are. So I just coaching my heart out here at A&M, and we were pretty good on defense. I go to Southern Cal. I got Chip Banks, August Curley, Joey Browner, Keith Browner, went and recruited Jack Del Rio, who came in and started a true family. Had all those guys on defense. So we led the league. But the bigger, most important thing probably is on offense we had Marcus Allen. And Marcus won the Heisman that year. So I spent a whole lot of time on the sidelines saying, "Go Marcus, go Marcus." and we led the league. We gave up, I think it was like 11 or 12 points a game for the whole season, average, So it was great fun coaching those guys. And Georgia Chica, I had all those guys. We had some fun guys to coach, man. They were good, and just going into the game knowing that we played Washington State that year, and I think they were 9-0 when they played us in the Coliseum, and they came in there, and it got out in the paper the day before. While they were there, they sent some people over to the Rose Bowl to see about accommodations and things around the Rose Bowl. So I took that. It got in the paper, which is stupid on their part. But anyway, I showed our guys. I said, "These guys hadn't even played the game yet. They were making hotel reservations for the Rose Bowl." So we kicked their tails, man. I think it was 45-7 or something like that, And so Pat Rule, I later coached with, who was on that staff, he said they were coming off the field pregame warm-ups, and they kind of passed us going, and they came and said, "Oh, God, I think those guys, they looked like they were ready, man. They got fire in their eyes, man." We leaned into them, and we were better than they were, And
Yeah.
Well,
That's awesome.
thank goodness that you got back to College Station to create the Wrecking Crew. That's the most important thing. That was only a 1-year stint.
Yeah, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that a guy named Melvin Robertson was a great mentor for me. I was a young guy. I've been at Kansas State with Vince Gibson, who was a defensive coordinator at Tennessee back in the day, and was really, really good. We played good defense there. Then I came to A&M with Emory, and he put me on as a receiver coach, and I had one receiver and one tight end, because we were a wishbone team. But it was a great experience, because I sat in there every day with Emory Billard and learned a whole lot of football, learned a whole lot of option concepts and that. So then, after that first year, I moved over to defense, and Melvin Robertson had been a defensive coordinator at Houston, been a long-time high school coach out in West Texas, and was really, of all the guys I was ever around, Melvin Robertson might be the best coach that I ever was around. And for a young guy, I went over and did what Melvin said. It was one time there was just 3 of us coaching on the defensive side. Paul Retcher had the line, I had the linebackers, Melvin had the secondary. And it was a great experience. And his philosophy back then, we had Pat Thomas and Tim Gray, had some guys. We played man coverage. Ed Simonetti, Gart Tenaple. Up front, we had guys like we had Lester Hayes. We had him at linebacker, and he might be the fastest linebacker that's ever played linebacker. We had him, had Jacob Green at end, Ed Simonetti, Tenaple. All of we were good. But the scheme was that, and the philosophy was kind of, whatever you do, you better do it in a hurry, because we're coming. And I kind of kept that philosophy throughout, starting the Wrecking Crew and all that. That was our deal. Hey, you better throw it in a hurry. Whatever, if you throw it in a hurry and you got people break on the ball, you're not going to go very far before somebody hits you upside the head,
Well, it's like Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a plan until you get hit in the mouth.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and we were coming, and some of those hits, the hit Coryat made up there is famous up in the playing TCU, and there were a bunch of other big-time hits, where we hitting Heisman Trophy winners. We played Bo Jackson up there in the Cotton Bowl, and they had first and goal. Auburn had first and goal on the 4. They gave it to him 3 downs. We stopped them, and they called timeout. So I got our team back over there, our defense, and talked to them. I said, "Look, get back out there." That whole north end zone at the Cotton Bowl was just full of Aggies. I said, "Y'all get back there and enjoy those fans. Let me give them another minute here of thinking, and I call it whatever it is. They're going to give it to Bo. You can count on that. We're going to plaster him in that back." So they went back out there, and they were hopping up, and the fans were going. So I call an all-out blitz again. For 4th and goal from the 1. We hit him about 2 yards deep in the backfield. So I got that picture at my house.
That's awesome.
The Heisman Trophy winner 4 times from the 4-yard line to the Heisman Trophy winner, and they end up on the 2. End up being 4th and 2. So that was fun. We
Yeah.
had some fun time, but the philosophy was the same throughout of that, and I think, today with the spreads and all that, you still, uh, and I think it still all works together. And I learned this over the years from being on the offensive side of a wishbone and being on the defensive side, and then being at Southern Cal and then the teams that I had here. And I watched the Super Bowl this past year, and overarching philosophy: if you can't run the ball on offense, I don't care how well you can throw it, all your schemes and all that stuff. If you can't run the ball on offense, you're not going to ever be able to throw it well enough to win championships. That's my
That's right.
philosophy.
No,
Because
that's 100%
because
true.
you go out there and you're on the field for 30 seconds and you back off the field, and then your defense is playing, and then that goes on, and you just can't ever. And you watch the Super Bowl is a prime example. I sit there and watch this, and nothing's changed. It looked like, well, their defense is really playing. Their defense was fresh. And they were out there and they were coming after him and getting with it. Offense, though, was about. And so what happens if you can really run it on offense? What's the defense got to do to try to slow you down? What do they have to
They
do?
got to stack that box.
They
Stack
got to
that
bring
box.
some guys down there and say, we can't.
And then all of a sudden, yeah.
And so all of a sudden now, if you got a guy that can throw and got some receivers, you're going to have a lot of great throwing opportunities. And I
Yes,
think
sir.
the one thing that stands out to me is you have to have that quarterback guy. I watch these teams now, over the last long time. The NFL figured it out before college guys did, but you better have a special guy throwing that ball. And I think one thing that helped, I'm really proud of the Texas high school coaches. When I was at Southern Cal, they had those what they call the watch games, and we'd go out on a field out there, and they'd have 20 or 40 high school teams doing the 7-on-7 thing. And my son, Sean, was in high school out there at a place called Walnut Creek, and they'd go up 3 days a week, and they would do 7-on-7 stuff there at school, and they would play other teams in the summer, 7-on-7. So I came back to Texas, and I knew a bunch of those guys, Tam Hollinshead and a bunch of them. I said, Texas had a deal where the coaches couldn't even meet with their players in the summer. I said, man, y'all, that's the craziest rule I've ever heard. The worst time is when that kid leaves school at the end of May and he goes home. You've been a great influence on him for the whole school year. Now he's back on the streets with his buddies, and it's against the rules for you to have any kind of organized meeting with that kid. So he goes 2 or 3 months, and some of them got lost during that period of time. They were back with the bad influences. 100%. And I said, y'all are crazy to not have the best influence in a lot of those kids' lives were their high school coaches, and to not have them involved with those kids in the summertime of all times is missing boat. So I'm so playing in. And as that concept went along, we had a guy with Fox Southwest, John Heike was in Dallas with Fox, and he said, and I talked to those guys about playing it up, having a summer deal and having a tournament, a 7-on-7 deal to a state championship. And they said that they would televise it if we had a state championship. So through that, we had it in College Station. I think they still have it in College Station.
They do.
And so when that all started, I played a little part in that. But I think it's great. Those kids have got, and so their skills, that changed the game because you had a bunch of guys that could throw the ball and you had a bunch of guys that could catch it, but it helped the defense too because they had a bunch of guys that got a lot of work in covering people too. So it was really, I think it elevated football in the state of Texas.
Yes, sir. No, I agree. Well, do y'all have any other questions? I hate to hold Coach Slocum up. We appreciate you jumping on with us. I'm still can't believe we got to have Coach Slocum on the podcast. So thank you so much for taking the time to join.
Appreciate what you guys do for the game of football and what you've done over your careers and what you're doing now, but still talking about publicizing the game of football. It's a great opportunity. I coached because of the impact my coaches had on my life. I grew up in a working class. They had a place in Orange called Riverside, which was, at the time it was built, was the largest federally funded housing project. And during World War, they built it for the workers that work in the shipyard for the war effort. And when the war was over, they had all these rows and rows of duplexes. So a private investor bought it and turned it into a low-rent housing project. So I lived out there, and there were some of the sorriest people in the world that lived there. But there were some wonderful people that lived there. Good, hardworking, Christian, good people. They were there because primarily they didn't have education. They were working, but their job level was not very good. And so I had good parents, Christian parents. My dad was a hardworking guy, but I heard the message, about the education thing. And then when I got to junior high, playing junior high football and high school football, I had great coaches. My head coach in high school was a guy named Ted Jeffries, who went to the first meeting of the Texas High School Coaches Association. In 1941, he won the state championship at Wichita Falls the day before the bombing at Pearl Harbor. And later on in his career, he went in the military. He and his seniors all went in the military effort. Then he went down and was a head coach at Lamar Junior College at that time, and from there to Stephen F. Austin. But he coached us in Orange, and we went to the state semifinals my senior year in high school. We had an All-American quarterback named David Foster, broke his collarbone in the quarterfinals, and we didn't have anybody. I had a sophomore behind him that hadn't played, and I learned something that season. You better get the backup guy ready, too. We set a bunch of records, and we beat the heck out of a whole bunch of people. We'd have been better off to cut those scores in half and let that backup guy find out if he can play or not. If he can't play, get another backup ready. So I learned that. And I learned another thing. My junior year, we played Port Neches for the district championship. End of the game, we pretty much got the game won. We held them. They punted to us. And we had a guy out there, and I'm sure he was doing what the coaches told him, but he went out to try to field the punt, fumble the punt. They got the ball on about the 5-yard line, and they beat us. And for the rest of that time, in those situations, someone should have said, hey, don't you even think about fielding that ball. You get back there, and you get away from it, and we'll take it, and we'd have won that game. So over the years, some of those lessons I learned in high school, but the big lesson, I had great men that coached me all the way through, polished on me, and I grew up in programs all the way through. I never had guys grabbing me and shaking me and cursing me, never. And I went to college, I had the same kind of guys. I had really good football coaches, and we were good. But I never had another man grabbing me and shaking me or jerking me around or cursing me. And so I didn't do that. I didn't allow my coaches to do that. I know guys do that. I went out, I saw some situations when I was recruiting some man, I wouldn't let my son or grandson play for that guy. Because I thought when you go in and take someone's most prized possession, their son, and they entrust him to you to try to keep him, and I tell the mothers, I pledge to you, I wouldn't even be here if I didn't think your son was a good person. And I'll pledge to you, I'll do everything I can to keep him going like you have him going right now. And I'll try to just keep him on the straight and narrow, and I'll put him with other guys like your son. And so that's the most pleasing thing to me now. I've got rings and watches and a whole bunch of stuff. But the most lasting memories for me and most meaningful thing is I get calls every day or so from guys that say, I love you, coach, and thanks for what you did and all that. That's what coaching's all about. So my message to you that you can send the high school coaches out there, do it for the right reasons. It's not to make you some big name guy or whatever, to make the money. You got to win to keep your job. But always put the welfare of those kids, and let's see, when it's all said and done, what is my legacy going to be? What will these kids think about me? And I think I'll close with one last thing. I always said, as a head coach, CEO, whatever, you have every right to be demanding, and you should be demanding. Set high standards, be demanding. You've got no right to be demeaning to another person. whether it's your player, whether it's the janitor of the building, or whoever it is, your son, you got no right to be in the meeting. You say, okay, hey, we need to talk. I'm not pleased with the way this is going. We need to talk about it. But you can talk man to man. And I did that with my player. I never grabbed one of them, never jerked him around, never cursed him. Said, hey, we need to talk. I may raise my voice and say, man, you gonna run that play again? That's not good enough. But I try to treat them with respect. I wanted them, as they became men, to treat their wives, their kids, and co-workers with respect. So anyway, I've enjoyed being with you guys. Good luck to you. Jacob
Coach
Aggies.
Slocum, pleasure's all ours.
Yes,
man.
sir. Thank
All right.
you.
See you guys.
Take care.
Man, what a great experience to have Coach Slocum on the podcast. That's a highlight for my life, probably. When I was a high school coach, I wouldn't have thought I'd have been able to sit down and talk to that man for 30 minutes. That is awesome. So,
Guys, you remember like just 1 year ago, we were recording on Google Meetings. We didn't have any of this technology. Like, it was just us. And we were really just, if nobody even watched, we didn't care. We were just talking ball, and now here we are talking with Coach Cheryl and Coach Slocum in 1 month.
Do you remember? Do you remember last year when we did the first one? And I'm not going to mention a name, but a certain individual said, "Oh, y'all have it ready by next Monday," and I'm like, "The game is Saturday. Like, can you help us out?"
Yes.
Obviously, that guy did not understand football and how podcasting football would work. But I'll say this, Matt. I'll say this. Just the other day, when we were getting all this set up, I got a call in the office, and my wife came in. She answered it, and my wife came in and said, "Hey, Jackie Sherrill's on the phone." I was like, "Wait, what?" So I answer the phone. It's Jackie. Goes, "Hey, man, I don't know if I got the right number. I'm just trying to get a hold of you guys." And he's like, I got Coach Slocum ready for y'all, and who do you need me to have him call? Well, I'm like, well, give him my number, for crying out loud. So I gave him my number, and then Coach Slocum calls me. Coach Slocum calls me, and we talk for like 30 minutes because he can talk ball all day. And so my buddy who's up at Carthage, he's an assistant principal. He called me later to talk about something. I said, "Hey, just want to let you know I talked to Jackie Sherrill and R.C. Slocum today, just so you know." He's like, "What? Why?" So anyway, yeah, it's all good, man, because like I grew up going to A&M games with Jackie coaching and RC. I went to 6 Cotton Bowls. I was there at the Cotton Bowl when they stuffed Bo Jackson. Those are cool memories for me. Those are my guys.
So cool.
Yeah. But the funniest part to me is for those of y'all listening, is we had a group text going, and Mark says, "Hey, Jackie called my office. He's getting RC set up for us." And I was the one that had reached out to Jackie for that, and I thought, well, that's great and all. I wonder why he called Mark. And Seth, before any of us could respond, said, "Well, that's because Mark and Coach Sherrill are closer in age than the rest of us." So I thought that was a great comeback. So.
No, Jackie and I are friends now. I mean, how good is Jackie Sherrill though and R.C. Slocum? How good of human beings are they? Since we've met them, and how we're not anybody. They have no reason.
That's exactly right.
And they have been
that's why I
from
told
day one.
Yeah, absolutely. Just they have no reason to do this other than they just are good people and want to help us out. So thank you so much to both those guys. Well, we're going to move on to the good, bad, and ugly of the Utah State game. If you're wanting to come on here and hear us just absolutely talk about how terrible this coaching staff is and how bad the team is, or this is probably not the podcast you want to listen to. So good was pretty easy for me. We put up over 500 yards of offense, put up over 40 points, had 200 yards on the ground. For those of y'all that were worried about the run game, it's still there. And of course, being a tight end loving guy, I love the fact that we use the tight ends. There was a drive in the second quarter, not the last one they scored on right before half, but the other one, they got the ball with 6 minutes to go and ran 12 personnel all the way down to the 21-yard line, and then went 13 personnel, bringing in a third tight end, and that's what Moss scored the 21-yard touchdown on. So that was a 6-play drive. Like I said, used at least 2 tight ends on every play. The last play was 3 tight ends. And 5 run plays to 1 pass play. Not saying we don't need to pass the ball. Love the pass game. Love what our receivers are doing. But I just love the fact that we're still, lining up and hitting you in the mouth when we need to. So a lot of good there. Seth, what do you got, boss?
I'm going to reference that graphic I made on a few episodes ago. We are checking all those boxes in 2 games. The first few boxes have always been checked. I put an orange check mark by the physical running back play because I feel like we're watching a version of Moss that's a little subdued. I made a joke in a group message with some other people about it looks like they've got him on Zoloft to keep him from, doing too much. I hope nobody takes offense to that joke. I really don't care. But so I hope they let him go this Saturday. I hope they let him, you know what I mean? Like that Moss we saw that plays like a lunatic, that just be balling Moss. I hope that's what we see Saturday. I think it is. I think they have been able to keep him to, they've had a whole offseason to work on this and being like, listen, when we're playing Utah State and they've been telling him all year, like, you're going to go get your reps, but hey, we need you to last all year, bud. And so anyway.
But that's what I love about his personality. Yeah. He's not like in the interview, I think maybe last week or something, they asked him, after the injury last year, if you had to do it over again, would you stepped out of bounds? And he just looked straight in the camera. He's like, no, I'm a man. That's not how I was like, heck yeah. It's like old school. I'm not. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah,
so.
the tight ends have been a net positive in the run game blocking too. Theo has made a huge leap, similar to like that Bussy freshman leap he's made. We're forcing the defense to play sideline to sideline. That's going to open up those top 2. Literally, the Bussy long touchdown came off the threat of a quick screen. The vertical stretches there with guys like Craver. You got the space guy. We've got Casey Concepcion, the space guy who can make something in space happen. So I am thrilled with the boxes being checked so far. The true test is Saturday, though. Will they check all these on Saturday?
You're talking about Theo. Somebody finally told him he was 6'5" and
no doubt
250 pounds. You can play physical. All right, so we're gonna move on to the bad. And this isn't terrible, but one of the things we talked about is we need our quarterback all 12 games, the same guy. We need consistency there. And I love the fact that Reed's athletic. I love the fact that when he needs to, he can go get us some yards with his feet. But I need him to use his checkdowns. There's 2 plays we're going to show here. This one here, our right tackle kind of gets beat. And if he just checks him down, you can see he'll run on replay. Moss leaks out to the top of the screen there. And right about now, hit him. And he never sees it until it's too late. And so there's also another play. You want to go to the second clip here. Same thing. He leaks out to the bottom. And this is a positive play. Reed goes and gets 9 yards on this. But I bet everybody watching this, when Reed went down and was laying on the ground, all of us held our breath because we've gone through that for the last 5 or 6 years. So I'm sure coach is talking to him. I don't want him to tell him never to take off and run, but, man, find that check down when you can because Moss right here, he's got 1 guy in his area. I would love to see him one-on-one with that corner. So that's my only bad. It's just so that Reed can last a whole season. So that's my bad. Seth, what you got?
Yeah, once again, there's not a lot of bad from the game, but just to find something to talk about and getting into some schematic talk, I've heard some talk about there. Well, Reed had some inaccuracy in the game, and every quarterback has some. Like Casey Concepcion's catch radius helps with that a lot. You can be a little inaccurate. That guy plays like he's 6'4", where last year we had a guy 6'4" played like he's 5'8". So this year we've got the 5'8" guy playing like he's 6'4". That does help with it, but some of this inaccuracy is not necessarily from a mechanical flaw. It's a schematic thing. Now we're going to focus on this route called the dig, which I have drawn in the background here. We run a lot of digs. We throw a lot of digs. Marcel throws a really good dig ball. And so first off, let's just talk about how far he's come. This was the first route he ran that I have on film last year as a freshman. It was a slant versus McNeese State, and it's not playing for some reason. Okay, well, we'll skip that. I'll just talk about it. Well, it was a slant versus McNeese State last year. I went back and watched it. He's covered by the McNeese State corner easily because he's a kid that we like to I always talk to kids about, like, when a kid is learning something new, they're playing with answering the questions of what, where, and when. And that usually gets you on the field, and that's how you have to learn. That's how we all learn something. But he wasn't playing with the how and why last year very much, and now he is. And so that's what we're going to see. But we still got some room to grow with. We'll focus on this dig route right here. This is Bussy running the dig right here, and you'll see right there.
Sit down.
He needs to settle. And so on the background here, the old coaching point with receivers were on any type of inward breaking crossing route. Once you get to your target zone, you settle versus zone and you sprint versus man. You got to run yourself open, keep yourself open versus man. And so just to show you an example, I took a screenshot there. You know, the ball was thrown right in the middle of that window, and Bussy kind of ran himself out of the window. So, and then this is one of those things where schematically, Marcel has in the back of his head, my last miss on the dig was I threw it behind Bussy. Even though it's a window throw, it's hard to get that out of your head. And the next dig we throw to ABR at the bottom of the screen here, ABR does settle, but he tries to lead him inside a little bit. And so I don't think those were mechanical flaw inaccuracies. I think those are schematic, fixable. If you get on the field, like you can do a dig drill. You can do dig drill all day with, you know, show him a man, show him a zone, show him a man, show him a zone. That's something that can be fixed in practice with some reps. So
well, that's why I was going to say this isn't necessarily on Reed, and this isn't necessarily on the receiver. This is just them getting on the same page and both of them seeing the same coverages, so that they both can sit down when they need to and keep running when they need to. But you're exactly right.
Yeah, so I did just some screenshots there to kind of show similar, like see how the ball was led. He led maybe a little bit more just because back of his brain, his last miss was behind, you know. So, yeah, like you said, these are very fixable things that just as reps build between these guys, they will get cleaner and cleaner. So,
yeah. Well, and so on ugly, man, it's hard to, I'll be honest, our offenses look pretty good. I love how diverse our offense right now is. We showed this week that when we need to, we can line up and pound you still. And I just love our personnel grouping so much. When I was at Carthage, I remember we were playing Spring Hill. If you're not from East Texas, Spring Hill is not usually one of your top football not usually one of your top football programs. And we were in the same district with them that year, and I had a buddy that I went to church with that coached at Spring Hill, and I remember he called me and he was like, dude, how do y'all run so many personnel and formations and everything y'all do? And I said, man, it's just a lot of reps and building on it and being consistent with it. And he said, I'm just going to tell you, I forgot the crazy number he put out, but he said, we've watched 4 games of y'all's film, and there's like 100 and some odd formations y'all run. There's no way for us to get ready for that. He said, we have narrowed it down to your top 5, and we're just hoping you line up in those. And so when you use the 12 personnel and the 13 personnel, but then you can also go 4 wide, and you can also go 11 personnel, and you can do all this, and you can throw motions in there. Man, from a defensive standpoint, it just makes it so difficult. So I do love that. But my ugly, the only ugly I'm going to say, and it's just something that Olin brought up last week, and I went back and looked. We've played 2 games now. So you've got 4 halves of football. Our first offensive drive of all 4 of those halves has been awful. And so I don't know what's going right. I don't know if it's our scripting, because usually a coach is going to come into the game with a script. I don't know if it's discussions being had or not had before the game or before halves. But we've got to be able to come out and be productive offensively on that first drive. Luckily, we're playing nobodies these last 2 weeks, but we're about to play somebody the next 2 weeks, and we're going to have to be able to come out and be productive on those first drives. So, Seth, what about you, boss?
Yeah, I was joking with some friends and said maybe we should do the junior high football halftime where we all just go to one of the end zones and split up into groups and do it that way instead of going back in the locker room.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have an ugly for the offense either, so I'm going to take this time to do my quick little rant that I like to do. And some of my friends are tired of hearing about this, and I actually did hold true to the bet because we're here. They got so tired of me talking about this back in like May. I said I won't bring it up again till we're on the trip, because we're going to go to the Notre Dame game. Me and some friends that went college.
Mark, did you get a call on that, Mark? Did you get an invite on that, Mark?
I didn't schedule the trip, so I'm not the I'm the invitee. I'm the invitee.
Enjoy it,
but
brother.
Anyway, but even though this is a big game and we like that and all that, it's stupid to have scheduled this. I went back and looked at the history of it. It's ugly to have scheduled this. We scheduled this in 2014 when we were in the SEC West, looking at the proposition of we're going to have to play Bama every year during the Saban dynasty, but let's just go ahead and add Notre Dame to the calendar. What is the thought process behind this? I would really like to know. Outside of, please like us, media. We're the Aggies. We get made fun of all the time. We're so tired of that. What if we schedule Notre Dame? The media will give us some props from that. No, they don't. They don't care. Okay, we're
But,
always gonna be that. Embrace it. Go schedule 4 cupcakes.
There you
Go
go.
do it. And then what's Sankey gonna do? What's Sankey gonna do? Is he gonna let our rival in behind our back? Oh, wait a minute, already done it. What's the point of pleasing the SEC or any of that? Because while we may win this game and it'll be a huge resume win, this is a physical battle that has repercussions that will trickle through the whole season, win or loss. And it did last year too. Like, we know about the ones that were announced, like Nebu last year, but there were lots of others that something lasted the whole season out of this game. And it is not worth it, in my opinion, until they start changing the way the KCFP is done, where it is losses literally don't hurt you. It's only wins. If they ever move it to where we're just going to look at wins and that's it, then, okay, these make some sense. But right now, they do not. And they didn't back in 2014 either. So anyway.
And you're right. I mean, you think about it, we took a loss, but we lost our starting center for this year. And come to find out later, our starting Willbacker played on a jacked up knee for the rest of the year. So, yeah.
And those are the ones we know about. Those are the ones we know about.
That's true. So, all right, Mark, well, give us the good, bad, and ugly on this Utah State, or our defense versus Utah State.
Look, I know everybody's like, my God, we gave up more than 20 points to Utah State, and I get it. I mean, look, I guarantee you, and they talk about Coach Elko coming to the sideline several times and just smoking their head, and I get all that, but there's still a lot of good stuff. But the good is there's lots of 3 and outs, and I have I stole somebody's tweet, right? And it said that despite giving up 23 points a game, we are actually number 2 nationally in punts forced, with 11 of those punts forced being 3 and outs. So we're doing a lot of things right. What's happening is, just like you said, Matt, the first drive after the half, why can we not get them? That should be a 3 and out. We talked about it when I coached defense. It didn't matter if we were up 40 or we were up behind 7. We always talked about 3 and out to start the half. Get them off the field to start the half, because Scott always took the ball in the first half. He never deferred. Scott Surratt's an offensive guy. So we were always going to be the first on the field in the second half. And it was always get them off the field, and we're not doing that. The UTSA with the big play, and then Utah State drove it down. But we're doing a lot of good things. If we go back and look at the film, there are so many good things, and there's some stuff that we're cleaning up. Our communication on the back end is very, very good. They ran a guy in motion one time, and they ran the rail on us, and we picked it up perfectly. This is the same blitz we ran last week, which we pulled up and we said Scooby it was a run play, though. It was the one they hit us with. We run the exact same one, and we run it to perfection here. Notice how Scooby gets around that block to his gap side, York, and they meet at the quarterback, and we should have recovered this fumble. But, man, we're all over the place. We're gap sound, and their quarterback has no chance. So it's the same one. If you notice Scooby saying play it, they checked out at the line, and so they said, no, don't worry about the fact that they checked out. Run the blitz anyway. And so he's saying play it, don't check out of it. They run it, we get a quarterback sack, and almost get a fumble recovery. So we're doing some great things. We do have some things to clean up, but I do see some progress. Brooks on the 4th down and goal, Brooks doesn't catch the back out, that they faked the back out, and then the quarterback went the whole other direction with the jet motion, and then he ran backwards for like 10 yards, and he threw it to the running back who's wide open. That was one of those when the ball was in the air, Brooks went, oh my God. He was, he knew it. As soon as the ball went up, he got, what had happened was,
it's like the outfielder that sprints. Yeah, it's like the outfielder that sprints up on a fly ball and then looks up and goes, oh, crap, misread that.
Yeah, and that's just one of those things. He didn't play week 1. I think that's only going to help him. There were a lot of things that Utah State did with the option game. We went under some blocks, and I could have pulled up a bunch of clips. But overall, here's the basic thing that I got. This is the first real test we're going to get. And this is the first real test that the guys know they're going to get. And this is going to be a different level of focus than these guys have had the first 2 weeks. Because just like Aggie fans that are like, well, it's Utah State or it's UTSA. Well, it's hard to get those kids to think 100% of the time and stay focused 100% of the time in games like that. I know I coached at Carthage, and most of the time we beat people 55-0, and luckily for us, our guys were coming out. If we could get them to focus for a quarter, we were up at 28-0. But getting them to focus during the week was hard. Getting them to pay attention and film, because they can turn the film on too and go, man, these guys aren't very good, and they know.
I was about to bring that up, Mark. This is one of those times where watching film as a player actually hurts you.
Yeah, and I was gonna go. You know, we worried about week one. You know, giving up a bunch of yards on the ground to that kid at UTSA. Why don't you go look up who's the number one running back in the nation right now? He's got 360 yards. He gashed Texas State too. That kid is definitely going to play at the next level if he stays healthy.
Yeah. I didn't give you the bad necessarily, but obviously that was the first drive. I would say this, my ugly, Matt, if I had to pick an ugly, is something that kind of worries me, is we're not getting enough turnovers. We've got one fumble recovery, and that's a guy that just came in and started playing. I think he's going to be really good, but where are the turnovers? And part of that may be that we've been pretty generic, and we've shown some cover three, which we don't necessarily do a lot of cover three. We're more of a two-man if we want to cover the deep end. We like the two-man look better than we do the cover three. So that just worries me. We need to start causing turnovers. That usually comes from quarterback pressures, like we did see the fumble that we forced there. But we've got to get turnovers if we want to beat Notre Dame. We've got to have some turnovers in this game. If we want to have a chance to win and keep that point total under 20, which is what I know they're going to shoot for, we're going to have a couple of turnovers. So.
Yep. So, Seth, you got anything to add on the defensive side, boss?
I just thought I would do an explosive play per game update. Now, granted, I know we've played 2 non-power opponents, but that's a good start. All right, so that was the graph I used a while back. You can see last year, this is just basically say how many explosive plays are we allowing of 20-plus and how many are we gaining. Divide that out per game, and which one is it? And last year, we were -1. Okay, so like we were getting out explosive. And I went back and looked up Power 5 too, and I mean non-Power 5 games. And last year we were 1-1 in those, which is not good. You need to be pretty positive in those. And so right now we're off to a pretty good start on those. I still think that the defense is giving up a little too many. They gave up 5 to UTSA. They gave up 3. And some of them, when you look back and look at it, you're like, well, one of them was a ridiculous catch by that kid from South Lake Carroll. I mean, good play. It is what it is. But still, like that's the kind of stuff that. You know, when you give up the explosive play, you never let anybody all the way out of the game, because at any moment they can go take one to the house, and some of these offenses we play might do that. So I think that's going to scale up as Coach Brown has talked about, that we're very vanilla on defense too, and so we're not going to actually call anything. Anyway, I think that'll scale up, but I'm going to update this probably every 3 or 4 games just to see where we stand in comparison to last year. So
okay, all right. Well, moving on to the big game, Notre Dame. So what I got off of studying them, they're going to base out of a 4 down. They're very young as far as experience goes up front. Now it's 1 senior, 1 junior, and 2 sophomores. But out of those 4 kids combined, there's only 3 games started prior to the Miami game. So none of those guys were major contributors prior. Definitely not the same line they had last year. You watch Miami. Miami was able to lean on those guys and get some push. And now they will still, I mean, they're still a solid. Freeman does a great job on the defensive side of the ball up there. They still only gave up about 120 yards to Miami on the ground on 38 carries, and they did have 3 sacks in that game and 5 tackles for a loss. So that front's not what they were previous, but still not terrible. But that's where I think we have to win, is up front, because I think their linebackers are both very, very good. 34 especially is he's a player, man. That guy can fly. And he does not mind getting his head in there. And unfortunately, I think their secondary is their strength. Now, they do have 2 kids that are brand new to Notre Dame. One of them transferred from Bama, one of them transferred from Virginia Tech. So you got some newbies back there. They're obviously talented, but they're newbies to Notre Dame. But they also have 2 preseason All-Americans in number 6 and number 15. So they've got some players back there. One is coming back from an ACL tear, so he didn't play at all last year. So they've got some hodgepodge kind of mixed pieces with the ACL tear and the 2 transfers in, but they still got the 2 GoDaddies that are preseason All-Americans. So we're going to have to be smart. It'll be interesting. It's exciting to me kind of because if you'd have told me that last year with the receiving core we had, I would say, oh my gosh, we probably need to run the ball 75 times and only throw it 5. But I do feel like Craver and Casey and Bussy and even ABR can get open against those guys. We're just going to have to be smart about it. You're going to have to know where 15 and 6 are at all times. I know my first year at Carthage, we played Liberty Ilo the first round at Lobo Stadium. Mark was still there at that time. And they had a kid at Liberty Ilo that was going to play football and run track at Arkansas. He was their safety. And we had a receiver, E. Pope, that played at A&M under Sumlin. And I remember we had a sophomore quarterback, Blake Bogenschutz, great kid, great quarterback. And Scott had told him, know where this guy is at all times. And I think like the second or third play of the game, he tried to throw a slant, and the kid almost picked it off. And Scott about lost his mind. He was like, I told you one guy. Know where that one guy is. Yeah. And so anyway, I think
Scott never about loses his mind. He does lose his mind.
Well, I know, but anyway, so that's what I saw. They're going to be solid defensively. We have got to lean on the run game, which understand that may mean for not as many explosive plays, but that keeps our defense off the field. And that keeps their 2 All-Americans from having a whole lot of impact on the game. So that's my 2 cents. Seth, what'd you see on the offense or on Notre Dame's defense for our?
I'm not gonna add much, but I just can't wait to be in the state of flux they are on defense, where they've lost 4 to the draft. You remember their secondary last year was incredible. Strength of their team as well. 2 of those guys of the draft, 1 linebacker, 1 D lineman to the draft. Yet here they are, one of the best units in college football. Again, maybe a little inexperienced, but you watch them on film, and then Freeman is, what is he in, year 4 or 5, right? Like, I mean, that's what he's done. He's
built super young, but he's done a great job.
Yeah, he's a good coach.
Yeah,
that's all I got.
Well, I will say this. One of the things that if you watch them on defense, they are a spin down team. They use their secondary to support the run. They did that with Miami. I think that's how they held to Miami, because I think they got pushed around inside a little bit. But their ability to spin a safety down. So I think, can we fool them like we did Utah State early on the Bussy touchdown? Can we make them think run, spin a guy down, and get one of our athletes behind them? I hope that I anticipate good things from Klein in that mode. At some point, I'd like to see us catch them in a 3-deep look or a 1-deep look and get one of our athletes behind them and hit them on a long ball. Yeah. So that's what I hope.
Well, what do you see from their offense? What do you see from Notre Dame's offense?
Yeah, they're a multiple pro style offense. Obviously, I think their quarterback is not as good as he was. And I think they're going to try to run the ball. He completed like 19 of 30 for 221 yards against Miami, but a lot of that was on the big long ball to the tight end where he scrambled, and then Miami let the guy go deep, and that should not happen. If I'm a coach at Texas A&M, like, look, see, this is a crap play. This should never happen, but unfortunately with us, we are bang or bust sometimes, and we just can't let stuff like that happen when he scrambles, because we let Utah State score in the same way. They ran the little play, and then we left the back out on the back end because we were watching all the stuff in the backfield. So I don't think he's as good as the guy last year. I don't think he throws the ball as well as the guy last year for sure. Their running back it's their best unit, just like ours. We have a staple of running backs. They have 2 really good ones. Although the Love kid only got like 10 carries, and so I think people at Notre Dame were expecting more from him. The tight end, they use the tight end a lot. So that'll challenge our nickel stuff and our linebackers. And you know that's a York weakness, but he's done really well with it so far. Their offensive line they're always good. They graduate people, and all the guys that are there now are on NFL radars because they're all NFL caliber offensive line. But I think they do struggle with pass protection in times. So this is where I'd like to see Elko crank up some of the things, show what he did these last couple of weeks, and bring something completely different. You can confuse this line, and maybe we can get some big sacks and some big plays. And we need some explosive plays on defense. We need a Will Lee pick. We need a York strip sack or a Cassius Howell strip sack. We need something big like that. And how about Cassius Howell? 3 straight sacks. I freaking love it. So we need it this week. We need Cassius Howell to be a player, and we need him to do some damage. And so, you know, they're Notre Dame. They do what they do. It's going to look very plain Jane at times, but they lean on you and they expose some things, and then they catch you in a bad situation. Can't let the quarterback out of the pocket. We said that how many times last year? And how many times did we let him out for an explosive play?
Yeah,
so I think it's being harped on this week as well. But we got the back end guys a little better. We're going to have to stop the run. You stop the run. I know I've never said that before either, but stopping the run is the key to our defense. Yeah, stop the run. Put pressure on the quarterback like RC sled. Make them do something in a hurry.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so my game prediction this week, and I hate to do this, but I did pick us to lose this game in my preseason, so I'm still holding firm to that. I hope I am wrong. I pray that I am wrong, because we have not won a ranked non-conference road game in a long time. But I hope that this is the year we take that monkey off our back. But so I'm predicting us to lose a tight one. I think it's going to be 24-21. I hope I'm wrong. I hope, if nothing else, maybe that's reversed and A&M pulls it out. But I think it's super close the whole game, and I think they pull it out at the end. But I hope I'm wrong. Seth, what you got?
This feels like if we knew right now somebody scored 30 points, I would say they're the winner. I don't know who that is, but I'm gonna flip because you know what? I was joking. I was like, I'm gonna pull the Kirk Herbstreit. I'm going to this game. So I'm going to abstain from making a projection. I think we'll win. I think I'm going to flip. I did say we were going to lose this in pregame, but if I'm going to the game, I got to think we're going to win. I ain't traveling up to watch a loss. So I think we're going to win 27-24. And I'll leave it at that. And when we talk player of the game, I'll explain how.
All right. Mark, what's your prediction?
Man, I was really hoping I could go before Seth. He almost stole my thunder there. But number one, you have to pick. You can't abstain because I hate predictions. I don't like them. They're dumb. We just do them. We just do them because that's what other people do. It's really dumb. Anyway, so I think A&M is going to win this game. I think the defense is going to play better. I think the defense is going to have an explosive play. It's going to change the game. I think offense will be efficient and well done, and I think Ags win 28-24.
Okay.
4 touchdowns.
All right.
I like it.
So my player of the game is Moss. I think win or lose, I think he's going to have over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Turn him loose, baby. Turn him loose.
Because I think in this game, they know they're going to have to lean on that guy. Casey's great. Craver's great. Bussey's great. All those guys are on the outside are great, and we're going to need them, and I hope they have big games and big stats too. But as RC said, man, you cannot have a championship winning team if you cannot run the ball. And it's got to be that time when it's 3rd and 1 and all 100,000 people in the stadium know you're running it. The other team knows you're running it, and you can still get that yard. So I'm hoping, and I think Elko understands that. I mean, if you hear him, he tells you he wants his leadership on this team to be the offensive line. He understands what championship culture is about and what it takes, and so that's my player of the game. I hope he gets the 100 and the 2 touchdowns. I hope I have to come on here next week and apologize for picking against us, but that's my player of the game. Seth, what do you got?
I'm gonna do a cop out and not take a player. I'm gonna take a whole unit. I'm gonna say special teams.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say their player of the game if we win. And if we lose, I have a feeling they may be part of the problem of why if we lost, because a big return is something that I know I talk about explosive plays all the time. We have generated multiple explosive returns, and those don't get factored into those statistics, but they probably hit harder than an actual offense or defensive explosive statistic does. With Bussy on the return, that return game could be a big contributor to an Aggie win. The punter we have, like if he can, in the situation, if we get into this defensive rock fight, and if the punter can pin them deep a few times, Notre Dame is not like playing Ohio State where you're worried about them going 90 just as much as you are 9. They're not as explosive of an offense, and so if we can pin them deep a few times, that definitely changes the outlook of the game. And then the field goal unit looked a little shaky against Utah State. It's got me a little concerned because I think this game is probably going to come down to it, either side, as a field goal being the difference in the ball game. So I'm going to go with special teams as a player of the game if we win, like I'm predicting or trying to predict.
All right, Mark, who's your player of the game?
Yeah,
You bringing out the blanket
so
again?
Hard. Yeah, this is really hard. No, I think the blanket's probably going to be quiet just because he's going to shut his side of the field down.
Right.
So, with that being the case, I really feel like it'll be the D line. So I'm going to pick the D line unit. If we win this ball game, it'll be because our D line played great. It may not show up in the stats necessarily with sacks or anything like that, but just consistently over stopping the run play. Our D-line will be where they're supposed to be. York and Scooby may have all the tackles, but it'll be because of the run fits and the great job that our D-line does. So I'm going to make our D-line the unit of the game.
All right. Well, Seth, I hope you have a great time up there. We'll be watching it from our house, but I wish I was with you, but have a great time. And we'll be back on here next week. Gig 'em, and thanks for listening.
Gig 'em. Thank you.
Tracy Amigos, former football coaches turned insurance agents, talk about Texas Aggie football.